A conversation with Nathan Rubbelke, staff reporter for the College Fix, on the importance of the College Fix Fellowship. Next on the Campus Roundup. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Duke, and this is Campus Roundup at the College Fix. Our top story segment this week focuses on the work of Nathan Rubbelke. Nathan has done great work over the years for the College Fix, and we're going to do a little retrospective of some of his best articles because they've really had an impact. Nathan, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks, Duke. Thanks for having me.
You just had the College Fix just did an article, Jennifer Cabani did, in which your work was cited prominently about how St. Olaf College basically has denied Ben Shapiro the right to talk, saying he's too divisive, quote, during a time of racial healing. Give us a little bit of background about what happened at St. Olaf.
Sure. There's been a lot that's happened at St. Olaf in the past year. Last spring, there was a racist note found on a black student's car. It caused an uproar, a massive protest on campus, but that note, as we reported back last spring, turned out to be a hoax. But that has still led, even though it's a hoax, the university has set up a working group to look at equity and racial issues on campus. And Turning Point USA at St. Olaf wanted to bring in Ben Shapiro, but the university's president at St. Olaf said that it would be divisive, and it wasn't a question of whether Shapiro should come, but it was a question of when, given this time of so-called racial healing and racial unrest on campus.
Yeah, nothing fuels the university outrage machine like racial stories. And if you can't find real incidents of racism, then a hoax works just as well. It's really interesting that the college Republicans, the groups that are trying to invite Ben Shapiro, they've been planning this for a long time. This is just coincidental. And so now the university is saying, because we're at the anniversary of a fake race hoax, we can't have Ben Shapiro appear because that will be divisive in a time of healing. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's a weird argument. And what's even weirder about it, I went to St. Olaf last year to cover that story when the racist note was happening and it was found and the protests were going on. And that same week, Christina Hoff Sommers, a noted feminist, kind of conservative feminist, came to campus, and it was fine. There was no protest. Sure, there was some back and forth in the Q&A, but a conservative speaker came to campus and everything was okay.
It's weird how this whole thing operates, you know. The other thing we need to talk about a little bit is your article about Diablo College. We have a community college in California where a professor of political science basically told a group of students that they must violate U.S. law, literally violate federal law, in order to destroy so-called white democracy. Talk about this story.
Sure. So this lecture was part of a social justice speaker series on campus. And what's interesting is this professor advocated for breaking federal law, but he never said what laws he was in favor of breaking. So it's kind of confusing exactly what exactly is he talking about.
Yeah, it is remarkable when you think about the nature of this. So you have college professors now on. He was a guest speaker, I guess. He was a speaker who was invited to speak in this forum. And he's calling for basically the violation of federal law in a very vague way. So you can't really nail him down. But I suppose the argument is that by championing illegal immigration the way this professor does, you're already sanctioning the violation of federal law. So I guess that seems to fit nicely into a niche that radical professors have when they speak on campus.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way. What's interesting about this talk, too, is that students were offered extra credit to attend. I think some people would take issue with that.
Tell the audience a little bit. What's it like to report on stories like this? I mean, you've got a very small liberal arts college in Minnesota, which you were able to go because of your College Fix Fellowship. You were able to go and actually research on site. Then you got something as far-flung as a small community college in California. What's it like to have to try to piece these stories together from a distance like that?
Yeah, it can be difficult, especially with the California story when the professors, advocated breaking federal law. I mean, clearly he didn't want to speak with us. And the university said they were going to probably provide a statement. They never did. We got lucky there. It was an easy story to report because the whole lecture was online. And so we could watch the whole thing, report it fairly, and then people could go watch the whole thing themselves and take away their own viewpoints about his talk.
Good. It's good. The camera doesn't lie, right, when you've got those stories backed up for you. And one other great story that you wrote that had a tremendous impact was what's going on at places like the University of Pennsylvania and really across the country, where university professors now are engaging in something called progressive stacking. Talk a little bit about what that means.
Sure. So this story came about when a UPenn teaching assistant tweeted out that she calls on her white male students last. And this is part of a teaching method known as progressive stack, in which minority students are called on first. This tweet caused quite the uproar, and but we kind of look back at the College Fix. We went on the internet, did some deep diving into Google and into academic articles, and found that professors have been doing this for years. This method's been around, I think, dating back decades, and it's been prominent in the last decade. It kind of came together as part of Occupy Wall Street, and then academics saw that and injected it into their own classrooms.
Yeah, talk a little bit about the research process that you guys go through. When you get a story like this, you really do some pretty intense research to figure out and make connections, which really, I think, benefits readers at home to see what a pattern's happening, these kinds of patterns on university campuses.
Sure. Yeah, this one was a really fun story to research. A lot of it entailed, going into search engines, putting in key terms like progressive stack, calling out white male students last, and scouring academic articles, academic conferences, university websites where these terms were brought up and discussed by professors. And we found a multitude of instances, which really showed while the outrage was over this UPenn teaching assistant, those who were angry about it had a lot more reason to criticize it and be upset that this was taking place on college campuses.
Yeah, I mean, one of the neat things about the Fix is given the site's devotion to exposing sort of the lunacy of college campuses, you guys can focus a lot more and have a lot bigger database, don't you, about these university arguments and how all these stories sort of fit together.
Oh, for sure. We've been covering this beat for so long. We've got a lot to run on it, and we've really got a great knowledge of what's happening on college campuses today.
And to hear more stories like this one, follow the College Fix on Twitter and Facebook. Time now for Talking Campus, our weekly discussion with members of the College Fix editorial team. Today, doing something a little bit different, we're going to continue our conversation with Nathan Rubbelke, who is a staff reporter at the Fix, but also was the inaugural College Fix Fellowship holder. Nathan, tell the audience a little bit. What is the College Fix Fellowship?
Sure. So for the past year, I've had the awesome opportunity to serve as a staff reporter for the College Fix on a fellowship basis. And a lot of what I do is, I write a lot of articles, of course, with a focus on investigative and feature reporting. But I've also had a lot of other cool experiences. I've taken part in a fellowship with the Charles Koch Institute, which has put me in touch with tons of other young, energetic reporters. And I've gotten the chance to take courses with great journalists through that fellowship program. And I've also had the chance to travel and really report on some interesting and exciting stories as a result of this fellowship. And of course, I've gotten to work with great editors, which is just an awesome thing to do, and especially to be a young reporter and working with highly talented editors and reporters is really a treat.
So the College Fix Fellowship has allowed you to really network with other fellowships and opportunities. So it's kind of something that builds on itself.
Yeah, it really has been. It's provided a chance to meet a lot of great reporters and a lot of other young people who I can possibly collaborate with down the road in this career.
What kind of benefits do you get as a fellow for the College Fix? What opportunities do you have that you otherwise might not have had?
Sure. I really think there's like three big opportunities I've had. One is the chance to travel and tell great, important stories. The journalism I've gotten to do is meaningful and is consequential. And the travel component really spreads out the Fix's reach and the audience it can reach and the stories it can tell. Secondly, the opportunity to network with other journalists and learn from other journalists and really grow as a writer. And lastly, the chance to work with the editors I've been working with for the past year. They've really helped me grow as a writer and a reporter. And I think we've really done great journalism together. And it's all because of their help.
And one of your stories recently was picked up by the Drudge Report, a huge audience. Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah, I've been lucky, really lucky in this fellowship to be picked up by Drudge over a handful of times. And that's really just great for the exposure of our work. But this most recent article was about a whiteness in decline event at Columbia College in Chicago. It's part of a lecture series on Trump, of course, because universities love talking Trump right now. But this event was about how whiteness in decline. This professor is going to link that to what she dubs as a resurgence in white supremacy.
You have done, besides these stories that are getting tremendous outreach, the things that you're being able to accomplish, you mentioned a number of times working with the editors. I know they've got a fantastic team here at the College Fix. They do great work. Talk a little bit specifically about how a young journalist like yourself is trying to sort of cut his teeth in the field. How do the editors work hands-on with you to help make you a better journalist?
Sure. I think the key word right there you mentioned was hands-on. I mean, I think in today's journalism industry, there's such a trend to just get content out there, get it out as quick as you can. Quality kind of diminishes. Here at the Fix, my editors take serious time to go over my copy, my articles I turn in for editing. They provide suggestions. They make them better. They push me on different ways to tell the stories, different questions I should have asked the source, or questions to follow up on. And so I think the best part of this fellowship is that you get people who are going to take the time to work with you. And in this industry right now, that's a really valuable asset to have. And it's really crucial to the success in my career, I think.
Yeah, and your fellowship ran for the past year, a calendar year. For students, young journalist students who are watching us, what advice would you give them, first of all, about how to apply for the College Fix Fellowship? What kind of things do you think the editors are looking for the next fellow? And what advice would you give any young student as they begin the process of becoming a journalist, whether they have a fellowship or not?
Sure. I think the first thing, and I like to say, if you want to become a College Fix Fellow, I think the best way to initially go about that is become a student reporter for the College Fix. We're always looking for new, talented young journalists to join our team. And if you do great work, you'll catch the eye of our editors and be a potential candidate for our fellowship. Secondly, keep your eyes open. Keep your eyes open for stories on your campuses and nearby campuses and campuses all across the country. There's stories out there, and we're always looking for people to tell them. And as you mentioned, they're getting linked on Drudge. They're getting linked on other websites. So there's quite an audience that wants to read these stories. And lastly, for any young journalists, keep reporting, keep writing, and always try to get better. I mean, that's what I've always been taught, and it's simple advice, but it goes a long way.
Yeah, it makes a real difference. And I like what you just said. To be a reporter really requires a lot of imagination and creativity, right? A sharp eye, a willingness to see events unfold, and an opportunistic ability to get in front of a story right when it's breaking.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I know from personal experience. When I started writing for the Fix, I went to St. Louis University. This was 2014. I was a junior on campus. This was the same year as Ferguson. And my campus was located a dozen miles from Ferguson. We had protests on campus. There was a fallout of the protests, of demands, etc. I covered that. And that's how I cut my teeth writing for the Fix, and it was a great experience.
Well, and as a culmination of your great work as a reporter and the support that you have from the College Fix Fellowship, you just received your first job, right? Your first professional job. That's the St. Louis Business Journal. Talk briefly about that.
Sure, I'm really excited about this opportunity. I'll be writing for the St. Louis Business Journal, which is in my hometown, which is just an awesome opportunity. But I'll be covering commercial real estate and sports business. So those are pretty heavy topics, but I think I'll be greatly set up for the job because I've had the past year of covering complex articles, complex topics, big issues. So I'm feeling pretty confident because of my time at the Fix.
Be sure to stay up on all the latest news and information from the College Fix editors by joining us on all of our social media platforms. Nathan Rubbelke, staff reporter at the College Fix and inaugural College Fix Fellowship holder. Thanks again for your time today.